Welcome into Cross My Heart Ministry and happy Easter season. I'm Laura McFarland, and our channel here at Cross My Heart is devoted to encouraging women to love God and to love His Word. And the Easter season offers the best opportunity for us to celebrate our identity in Jesus Christ and what He has done for us. So today is Monday. We're getting in the kitchen to share a recipe, as we often do on Mondays. We call those Martha Mondays. But even as we're celebrating Easter, and I'm sharing a fun little whimsy cake recipe today that I call the Easter egg Easter cake mix cake, I also want to encourage you to be a woman of the Word, especially during this month. We have our Write the Word bookmark highlighting verses that all include the word life, encouraging us to lean in and contemplate our identity in Jesus Christ and the life that we have, the life that really matters because we know Jesus. So the link is there. You can go to our YouTube channel where you're finding this video and see a recent video where we introduce this new teaching on life, and download your copy of that as well. But for today, we are talking about Easter and we're thinking about something whimsy, and we've got the jelly beans out. I am wearing my apron with the cross on it that my 10-year-old granddaughter made for me to remind me that even while we do the Easter bunnies and the Easter eggs and the chocolate and all that, and we have Easter egg hunts, it's all about Jesus when it's Easter. So my recipe for today, the Easter egg cake mix cake. Now, if you're looking for Easter lunch dessert and you want to make it easy, I don't think it'll get any easier than this. You may be pulling out all the stops with the deviled eggs and the ham and the sweet potato casserole or the hash brown casserole and all the things. So maybe by the time you get to the dessert portion, you just want to push the easy button. So I'm sort of sharing a recipe today. I'm adapting it from a couple of things I saw and hope it's going to work out okay. It's kind of my first time to do it, so we'll see how it goes. But because we begin with the cake mix, it's really a huge shortcut. So the first thing to do is just adjust the cake mix instructions. You're basically going to make the cake according to the cake mix, and you could just do that. But I have a couple of hacks that if I'm using a cake mix, I like to sort of change it up just a little bit to make it a little more moist. I'm going to grab my scissors so that I don't tear that plastic and have a big puff of flour and cake mix all over me. So the recipe calls for 4 egg whites. I'm going to substitute my egg whites for 2 eggs. And so since the recipe called for egg whites, adding the eggs instead will make it a little more moist. If your recipe calls for 1 egg, you might go ahead and add a second one. I just sometimes like to add an extra egg on top of what it already calls for. But since this one didn't call for a whole egg to begin with, I'm just going to substitute the 2 eggs for the 4 egg whites and see how we go. Of course, these eggs this time of the year, I've told people, you know, we used to joke and say that, talk about the goose that laid the golden egg. I think now that the price of eggs, every chicken in America that lays an egg lays a golden egg given the price. And so if you're doing deviled eggs for your family, or you're going to do colored eggs for the kids to hunt or decorate for Easter, that's quite a sacrifice. Saw a post on Facebook recently that had potatoes pictured and colored and decorated. So if you can't afford to use Easter eggs this year, maybe you'll just wash up some potatoes and have the kids paint those and hunt for little Easter potatoes. We just do what we got to do to make it work this year. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 eggs in here. I'm mixing this in a clear measuring bowl this time. If you watched me before, you know I normally use my big stand mixer, but I've got a reason for that because we're going to measure this out later. So my cake mix recipe calls for the egg whites, and then it calls, and I'll replace those with eggs, and then a 1/2 cup of oil and 1 1/4 cups of water. Now, another thing I'm doing, and you can do this with your recipe, is to replace any water with milk, and that'll also make for a more moist cake. So that's what I'm doing. Let me get 1 cup, pour that in, and then another 1/4 cup. I'm going to also need to go ahead and get my oven preheated. I forgot to do that. So 350. So 1 1/4 cups of milk. And then let me just be sure I haven't forgotten anything here. Nope, only the oil left. So what, half a cup of oil. And again, your cake mix may have slightly different instructions, but if you just want to adapt that with the milk, I've also read that you can use sour cream or even Greek yogurt to give it a little more moist texture, but adding the egg and the milk, I think is going to do it for what I'm up to today. So here we go. I'm going to use my little hand mixer here to get this mixed, and in my Pampered Chef Big Deep Bowl, because what we're going to do is take this cake mix, and instead of baking it in 2-layer pans like you would typically do if you were making a round cake mix, I have 4 smaller 8-inch rounds instead of 9-inch, and I'm going to divide that up. We're going to make 4 small round layers, all in different colors. So that's where the Easter egg color part of the cake comes from. They're going to be thin, but they're going to be colorful and very pretty. So this is just about good. I'm going to scrape down the sides a little bit. I wanted to do it in my clear bowl so that I could see how much liquid I have. And then I'm going to divide that up into these other measuring cups and add just a drop of food coloring to make the Easter egg color. So you can use whatever colors you want. You do you. I've bought some new Easter colors for this little recipe this week. So I've got the green, orange, purple, and pink. So I think that's going to be a really lovely look for my Easter egg cake here. Let me see if I can get some of that off without spraying it all over myself. Okay, so let's look here and see how much batter we have. And then we got to do a little math and divide by 4 to see how much we put in each one. I held it up and I looked at it, and I looked at it with my reader, so I was finally able to discern there are 4 cups of batter here. So that is just about perfect. I'll have 1 cup of batter for each of my 4 layers. Now it's going to be really thin, but we're going to make it work. And so when you bake it, it's probably not going to need to bake as long either. So I'm going to go ahead and treat my pans. These are, again, they're only 8 inches, so they're much smaller than the 9-inch because we don't have as much batter to use. Now, another idea, if you wanted to use a 9-inch pan and really have an awesome cake, is to go ahead and do 2 cake mixes, and I actually considered that. I'm almost out of this baking spray that has the flour mixed in. Whew, got a little bit of overgrown. I'm just going to go back to my plain old baking spray and spray it really well. And the top is coming off. That's what happens when you're doing everything live. You just never know what's going to happen. Okay, here we go. Get this one all sprayed. And number 4. So I'm going to dole out, allocate. Got my pans all ready to go. Now we're going to allocate out 1 cup of batter for each pan. And so I have 4 measuring cups. I'll leave the 4th one in here, but let's just pour out 1 cup each, or as close as we can get to 1 cup. There's 1. Because we use not only the cake mix to start, but then we're going to ice it also with the store-bought icing. I usually like to just mix up everything on my own, but I wanted to just come up with a recipe that would be fast and easy that you could throw together for Easter. And so this is it. We're doing everything out of the box or out of the little carton and making it super duper easy. I spilled a little bit of batter on the counter, and because every little smidgen is going to count for this project, I'm going to pull it out. And now I'm having a hard time identifying where my cup mark is on here. So let's just look. Had it turned to the wrong side. All right, you got to squat down to see. And I think it's going to be a little forgiving. Maybe some layers will be a little thicker than the others. We shall see, but that needs just a smidgen more, perhaps. And then hopefully, I've got 1 cup left in my big bowl here. So we're going to scrape all that down. Every little drop is going to be needed to make this cake mix work. So here we go. Now, wipe the hands. Put that back up in there. Okay. Now, I'm going to do 1 drop of each color in each one. So there's a drop of pink, drop of purple, drop of orange. Wish my granddaughters were here. They would think this was absolutely marvelous. Oop, may got a little bit extra green there. Okay, let's see how we go. I'm going to use a spatula to mix this. Color looks pretty vibrant and pretty, I think. So you can see my pink. This coloring, I think it said, yeah, it's a gel food color. So, and it is a Wilton brand. So that may contribute to making it a little more vibrant and pretty because it's gel. But I think that looks really great for 1 little drop. Sometimes you just get a light color with that old food coloring. So that looks good. Let's get another spatula to do the purple. It's turning out really great as well. Vibrant, pretty color. You want to keep mixing until you don't see white streaks and all the white has been transformed into whatever the color is. So this is sort of simulating the Easter egg colors for Easter Day. And so when your guests are there and you slice into that what looks like just a white cake with some coconut on top and some Easter eggs, but then they see all the colors on the inside, just prepare yourself for everyone to be amazed and have all the oohs and ahs and wows that come. So there's the purple one. Different spatula for the orange. Just going to keep mixing it around here. This looks like a fudgesicle. Remember those? Delicious. Okay, just about done. I was also just thinking this would be a good idea if you wanted to let the kids decorate cupcakes this year, since eggs are so expensive. You could sort of divide up the batter and make individual cupcakes and then let them each have a cupcake of their own and decorate that. So all sorts of ideas come to mind. Once you have the food coloring and a white cake mix, you can just go in all sorts of directions. So the green is really sort of a turquoisey green, which is a really gorgeous color when we're thinking about Easter eggs. And because this is the one that I mixed my cake in, I've got all the icing, all the cake mix on this side. So it's going to be the most challenging to mix in and make sure we've got it all covered there. All right, scrape that. Got some on the outside here. Want to get it all, and even some in the little lip there, the little side. Okay, just about there. The oven is dinging at me that it's ready for my cake baking whenever I have them all ready to go. Now again, these are going to be super thin, but hopefully it's going to be enough to cover. So let's just start pouring them in. I'm going to start with the turquoise. You can see that color. Let's get it poured in here, and as long as it just sort of covers the bottom, we're going to call it good. I think the cake mix box said that this would take about 30 minutes to bake, but I am absolutely confident that it will not take nearly that long, since the layers are half as thin as they would normally be. So your oven will differ from mine. Everybody's oven is set and might bake a little differently. Plus, these thin layers mean that you're going to need to watch it so that it doesn't burn. So set your oven for whatever the cake mix says, but then set the timer for about half as long and just keep watching it. And as soon as it feels like it's ready, you test that with a toothpick or something and get it out of there. Okay, let's spread this around all the way around to the edges. And it's going to barely cover the bottom, just about right here. Okay, so there is layer number one. Use my fingers to get all this icing off. And we got one down, and we have 3 to go. Need to get all of the turquoise green off my fingers so we don't have that mixed into the other. So there's cake number 1. Let's go on now to cake number 2 with our orange one. Is that pretty? There you go. And of course, you don't have to use my colors. You can mix your own colors. And if you only have a couple, you can try just even mixing the food coloring you have and get very creative at your house. But I do really like the vibrancy of what these gel colors did, what a little amount I needed to use, and how it provided such a nice, vibrant color. So I'm going to remember that when I'm buying food coloring to do something else with my grands when we get in the kitchen again. So, okay, here's this one. Just going to spread it out all the way to the edges as well. I'm going to bake these, and just a little tip, if you let a cake cool completely in the pan, it's going to be more difficult, I think, to get it out. So let it cool for just a few minutes to set. And then while it's still slightly warm, I like to go ahead and pop mine out and let it cool completely. So we're going to bake these, keeping an eye on them. And then I'm going to take them out, let them cool, and then I'll come back afterwards and let you see me go ahead and ice it all. And so I think that kind of the surprise part of the cake, and I started to call it the Easter egg surprise cake, because you're going to look at the outside and it's going to be all white. It's going to be decorated with the white icing. So now here's the purple. But then when you slice it inside, that's when you see all the colored layers. So that's what makes it really a fun surprise. Ooh, this purple is really pretty. Got some up on the side in my haste trying to get it all out of there. Okay. Number 3 is almost ready. Rake that down this side a little bit where I got it up. Okay, here we go. Getting that all spread out around the side. Get off the... We need every little morsel to be spread out even. Okay, so there's number 3. And finally, the last one is our pretty pink. I guess the next question I'll have to decide is what order I want these to go in. If my grandgirls were here, I'm sure they would have an opinion. And the ones that say that like purple would want the purple to be the top layer. The ones that like pink would want pink to be the top layer. So I may have to put purple and pink on their first and second, maybe just in the order of their ages and their favorite colors or something. We'll see about that. I wish that they were here again to help me make it. They would love it. But now that I've got this idea, it's one that I can do when they are visiting me. We will have fun with that. The other thing that occurs to me is you could use different colors for different holidays. So if you wanted to do red and blue layers and leave one white, you could do a 3-layer cake for the 4th of July. That might be sort of a fun idea. So we could call it the patriotic firecracker cake or something. So maybe I'll try that again. You can look for Martha Monday in July if I get a wild hair and decide to do that. Okay, so now this one is all set to go. Let me get all of my pink off of there. And here we go. Time to put these in the oven. I'm going to bake them. Now my baking instructions say to bake this for 19 to 23, no wait, for the round layers it says 34 minutes for 8-inch layers, but of course I've got 4 of those. So I'm going to set my timer for about 14 or 15 minutes and check it. So I'm putting these in the oven, and I will be right back in just a few minutes to let you see how they turn out. So stay tuned and come on back. Hey, well, we are back, and the cakes turned out beautifully. They all were just perfectly. They are very thin layers, and so I'm going to go ahead and start to assemble them now. I've got, again, my purchased vanilla store-bought icing. So I'm just going to start and grab this orange one. I'm going to put him on the bottom and start building my layers. So see, very, very thin, but this is going to be so pretty when they get cut. It's just going to be this white cake on the outside, and the cake is very moist. I grabbed the top of it and it got a little bit of cake on my hands, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use the vanilla icing, and I went ahead and purchased 2 containers of this. Not only are the icing and all the things that they're giving us a little less these days, but because we have 4 layers instead of just 2, you're going to need more icing to get everything covered. And so I like to have nice thick layers in the middle. Now, this is so moist, and I did not try to put it in the freezer or anything, so I am seeing some crumbs a little bit in my icing, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is going to be hidden, and so I'm just going to put a nice thick layer in between. I'm going to put the orange one here on the bottom, and then I'm going to come on top of that with this pretty turquoise one, these nice Easter egg collars. Again, I used the gel collars to do those, and they just turned out so pretty. So I'm going to put the bottom against the bottom. It is so moist, you can see on my fingers, I've got some of the cake coming off, but that's totally okay. I did test mine, and 14 minutes was about perfect. They just turned out very, very nicely. Now, this is really moist on the top, and so I'm expecting that I'm going to have even more of the icing of the cake maybe come out in my icing. So I'm just going to kind of spread in one direction and then come back up. And it is coming off just a little. Again, professional cake bakers would tell you to go ahead and freeze it and kind of do a crumb layer first. But, you know, this is a quick job. That's part of the reason we started with the cake mix. We're just going to try to do it quick and easy. It'll taste just fine. And these little crumbs are going to be hidden in the middle anyway. So I am really being generous with this. And there we go. So we're building the tall tower. So there's the one. And so now I'm going to go back with, I'm going to do the purple one next. Going to lift this up and put it on top. It's going to be so pretty when it's sliced. And I love the surprise of it, because when you're going to look at this cake, you're just going to see all white. Now, if you wanted to get fancy and get some icing and pipe it on, you could do some edges around and make it even fancier. But my whole goal for this cake was to give you something that would go together quickly for Easter. If you just were so busy fixating on what you were going to serve for the main course, and you just didn't have time to think too much about dessert, run to the store, grab a white cake mix, couple of cans of white icing, and you are good to go. There's lots of different things that you could do to decorate the top as well. So you can think peeps, you can think those little chocolate eggs, you can get chocolate bunnies, whatever you want to do to make the top of it look Eastery and fun. But I am just going to keep it simple. I've got some jelly beans, and I've got some coconut that I'm going to color to make it look like grass to go on top. And if I thought about it, I would have picked up some chocolate bunnies or something, because with the grass that would have been fun. But we're just going to do the eggs because that is what I have. So I'm going to pick this one up. Now my white one, my pink one is the one that kind of looks like it kind of split a little bit. I probably should have put it on the bottom. If I had noticed that I had one cake that kind of split, I would be sure I put it on the bottom so that it wouldn't maybe be seen on the top. But we're going to cover it with so much coconut and icing that it's just not going to matter. So I'm going to just dump some of this out here, get it spreading really nice. And then we'll have enough to do the sides as well. So I've got this bigger spreader here that maybe I should have been using. Picked this up, I think, at the Dollar Tree at some point. It may even be a Wilton one, but it's kind of nice to go around and do the sides with this thing. So let me get some of this here. Nice, tall, pretty cake. Oh my goodness, how nice is that? I'm trying to decide. I'm recording this, of course, a couple of weeks before Easter. So I need to decide who is going to be blessed with my Easter cake. I'm going to have to find someone. Whoops, I just dropped all of my icing on the side, but that's what a little rag is for, to clean that up. So should maybe come around and let you see what I'm doing. But it'll be nice to slice it. I might even just do it in slices and just run around to some friend's house and drop off slices of Easter egg cake to different people that I love. Now, I am seeing that my icing is, maybe I went a little bit too thick. I think I'm going to make it, but just barely. So my advice is to go a little thinner on those interior layers just to make sure you have enough. I'm going to be scraping down to the bottom because I want to make sure that everything is covered. And I'm going to make it, but just barely. Just barely. Get this. I've probably got some on the top that I can steal a little bit too, because remember, we're going to cover that up with some coconut. Here we go. I'm going to see if I've got another spatula so that I can get all of my icing out of here. Here's a little one. I'm going to need every drop of icing that I can maneuver out of this little can. And I am just convinced, I've had this conversation with a friend numerous times, that all of these packages that we buy, whether it's a cake mix or a brownie mix or Jell-O, they have just robbed us a little bit. They have tried to fool us into thinking that we're getting just as much, but they're increasing the price or trying to keep the price the same sometimes, but giving us less. And so that just has a tendency to kind of mess up our recipes that we got from our grandmas. But I'm definitely thinking that maybe this icing mix isn't as much as it used to be. Here we go. Definitely going to have to take a little paper towel to clean around the bottom of my serving platter here because I've made such a mess, but that is okay. Again, going to try to get all of the icing out because I want to cover up all of my cake as much as possible. This went out too. Oh, there's lots left. It's amazing. You think a jar or a little container is empty, and you get out that spatula, and there's a whole lot left that you are going to be thrown away if you don't get it all out down to the last little smidgen. And believe me, I'm needing the last little smidgen because I was so generous with those middle layers. But that's okay. We're going to make it. We're going to make it here. About to get it covered. And then I'm going to shake that coconut. I think one of the recipes called for toasted coconut. I'm not messing with toasting anything. I don't even like coconut that much. I'll probably rake mine off when I eat my piece of this delicious cake. But it just looks so pretty at Easter to have the coconut on there to make it simulate the grass, of course. So there we go. I think we are going to call that good. Get my hands wiped off here. And again, I've got a little bit of a mess there on the cake, but a wet paper towel will take care of that off of my plate. I'm going to go ahead and open up my coconut. See if I've got a knife that my hands are wet, so there we go, I got it. And I'm going to use the turquoise gel from my icing. It'll kind of match the cake that's inside. Just a little bit of coconut. And then I'm going to put just a drop of this in. And I don't think it takes much. That gel stuff is pretty potent, pretty powerful. So I'm just going to mix it with a fork until we've kind of got it covered throughout. So I don't know that it may look more like AstroTurf than real grass with that turquoise color, but it'll be just fine. So get this all sort of mixed up. The coconut's really fresh. I can smell it. Sometimes the coconut that I'm baking with, if I'm making 7-layer cookies or Italian cream cake, has been on my pantry or in my freezer, and I don't smell the coconut. But this one is really fresh. So, okay, here we go. I got my coconut mixed up. I am just going to sprinkle this on the top as such. And again, if you wanted to get out your cake decorating things, you could pipe some icing around the top or do something a little different. But I am trying to do this kind of quick and easy. So we are just going to sort of do it this way. I think if I were doing it again, I always put my top side down and then bottom to bottom and then have the top. But I think it would be good to have the bottom of the cake pan on top so it's nice and flat since you're going to be putting things on top. So I might do it that way next time, just kind of thinking through. But anyway, I think this is going to be good. We got all the little icing coming around. Isn't it pretty already? And so when your guests come or your family comes and they think, oh, you've made this beautiful cake. And then we've got them. I just bought some jelly bean eggs. Get my knife here and just sort of cut that bag open. And I'm just going to put eggs like we're just searching for Easter eggs. So that's why I'm calling mine an Easter egg cake. You might want to make yours a peep cake and put some peeps on top or whatever. But I'm just going to put all my little jelly beans here on top, and not in any sort of necessary special order. Use the white ones, the yellow ones, put them all on here. It just looks so festive. So here we go. Oh, and you know what? Maybe even having some jelly bean eggs around the bottom would also be nice. So let me consider doing that. I dropped one and it actually gave me an idea. So, up we go. I've got them all. I might as well use them all. If I can get them to stay in the icing. I'll get a picture here to show you. I'm dropping them off the top. That one, it's got some icing in it. Here we go. I think we're going to call it good. I keep dropping them down the side. Okay. One more over here. Fill in the holes. Ah! They're rolling off the top because it's such a rounded top, but that's okay. Okay. There he goes. Okay. I'm going to call that good. I am going to get a paper towel because it's driving me crazy to have this icing on the side. And get this kind of cleaned up for the photo so I can show you. And I will take a picture of this and put that into the video as well so you can see it. But I think it's turned out really cute for a quick and easy Easter dessert. Let me bring it around closer to the camera. So here you go. Can you see it? I'm tilting it. I don't want it to fall off. So there it is. And I am going to go back over here. And I think you're dying to see what it looks like on the inside. And guess what? So am I. So let's just go ahead and cut it. What do you say? Let's cut it. When my nephew was a little guy in West Virginia and he would come to my mom's house, he always loved pie, and he especially loved her peanut butter pie. And he would always come to Gran's house and say, "Got any pie?" with his cute little West Virginia accent. And then she would say, "Yes." And then as the story goes, he would say, "Is it peanut butter?" And if she said yes, then he would say, "Let's cut it." So folks, we're going to go ahead and cut it. Okay, in honor of my nephew, I'm going to great big knife here to see what the inside looks like. Let me grab a plate so that I can put a slice on here and then let you see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice right down and slice another piece here. Got a little cake server that might make it easier to lift that up. And you see the layers? How pretty is that? Oh my goodness, I just love it. I've got jelly beans falling down in the middle, but I'm going to bring my cake back over so you can see the layers inside. Maybe I can make this stand up. I doubt that I can. I'll just hold the cake up and let you look. Let's see. So how lovely is that? That's our Easter egg Easter cake. Goes together quick. I hope you'll give it a try. If you give it a try, let us know in the comments below. And if you like this idea, give us a thumbs up. From my house to your house, a blessed Easter to you and your family. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland.